Right then, you join us on the river team and we are fishing for chub and barbel. On the float as well, so a little bit more special. The river's a bit low and clear, but we're hopeful we can have a few. So hopefully you pick up a few little tips and tricks on our approach to these small rivers. Excuse the quiet, but I was really concentrating then because I've got a barbel on the float on the team, and it is leading me a merry dance, trying to go in every snag possible. On the on about a tight swim. I love my glide, but the Omegas are brilliant for this. There's that little bit more power to turn your fish when you're having trouble. As you can see, it's a bit of jungle warfare. This fish will be very welcome because I've had a nightmare so far today. After baiting a swim for an hour and a half, hooking 3 chub in 3 runs down and losing them. Just hook pulls, but I think it's because of how clear the water is. Oh, come on. But they just haven't been eating it properly. Yeah, right at the end of it. Get in. Oh my God. Not the best netting in the world, but that is a long fish going in a small net. Oh, under the trees as well. I'm well happy with that. One of those days where it just wasn't going right. Losing fish earlier, but that is proper made up for it. You know, proper. It's not even a swim. It's a deep hole under a bush that we've waded up to. It's important. The river's low and clear. I'm not going to let that fish or take that fish out of the water. I'm just going to let it get its breath back for 5 minutes first, and me, because it's warm, as you can probably see from the sweat beading off my face. I'm going to let her get her breath back. I'm going to keep putting a little bit of food in case she's not alone. But what a result that is. Wicked. Another great. Make sure that doesn't escape. Great tip. Low water conditions, fast mat, also waterproof. Get some water in the fast mat so when you're dealing with your fish, she's nice and comfortable. Continuously wet, just good fish care. So the first fish of the session after a nightmare starting the last swim, feeding it for ages and losing those chub. Quick move, just to rest the swim basically. Fancied this little deep hole on the bend. 2 runs through and a barbel. That is a proper result. After a nightmare start, it just shows that perseverance. Don't let your head drop. Get lovely fish like this. I'm properly happy with that. A lovely river team barbel on the float as well. Even more of a bonus. Let's get a rest in. Just another note as well, that barbel hasn't gone back yet. Just letting it rest up in the net, making sure it's fully recovered. I just had a little chub, well, just a little chublet. Hopefully, if we have another 3 runs here, will be an indication if there's anything else feeding. If nothing happens, we'll go back to that other peg. Right then, a few more runs through, 1 small chublet, I'm going to get that barbel back now she's fully recovered. I'm going to see if those chub have made a return on the bait. Hopefully they have. So the reason I'm feeding so far downstream is basically line lay, and when I cast in, I don't want, with continuous feeding, the chub might come right up onto the feed, and if I'm putting an Olivet on their head, it can make them a little bit spooky. It's okay on the Waggler because it's a softer presentation, but some of the Olivets can go in a little bit forceful. So I can cast above my feed, and by the time my floats reach the feed, the fish shouldn't be on edge. And I'm just sort of, the majority of the cover's further downstream. While I'm getting stuff ready, put 3 or 4 big pouches in, tie a couple of hook links, set the rod up, like 3 or 4 more big pouches, same again. I've got 2 tubs. I've got hempen caster, and then I've got the cube meat that I've just cut up with the new cutters. And the reason I've got them separately is so if they were all together as I feed, because they're different sizes and different weights, they would scatter differently in the swim. So you'd get like a line of hempen caster, and then your meat would go further. So by having them in separate tubs, you can sort of adjust the way you feed it, so not flick the meat as hard, so it feeds the same line basically. Right, the first setup I'll be using is my Omega on the centre pin, and this one is quite a heavy duty setup for a small river. They don't tend to carry so much flow as the bigger rivers like the Severn and the Trent, but it's a great take on slowing your bait down if you can present. So I've got a 4 gram, I've got my 4 gram Olivet there, 4 gram glide stick float, quite a longish hook link because I don't want it to intrude too much with the bait. And this is for edging it through the bait sort of thing. So with that heavy weight there and the bigger float on the pin, I can keep constant contact with the float and the bait, easing it up as much as I like or letting it go as quick as I like. I can also obviously adjust the depth if I feel the chub come up in the water, or try and drag it through. That's more for the barbel, and I've got a setup behind me that is better suited for that. As I've just touched on that, I'll show you that. So the second setup is a little bit more delicate, and it allows me to fish multiple depths at once, if that makes sense. Because I'm fishing one of our new missile floats up here, Waggler style, with 3 number 6 shot dotted down and a piece of meat, so I can effectively run that through shallower bits of water. Because the team varies in depth so much, you'll cast it maybe onto a shallow bit of water or somewhere that you've got 4 foot water, then it'll come up to 3 foot, then it'll drop away to 5 foot. This will sort of, if I set this at 5 foot, I can drag it through the peg over all the depths. Because there's not a lot of weight to pin it down, the meat pretty much trundles along the bottom, which sort of lends itself perfectly for barbel. So hopefully that's what will happen. On a fixed ball reel, this one's on my 12 foot glide actually, and I have just got a glide mono there. Fantastic line, floats really well, and you can just helps the control of the float. You can pick that line up and move it back behind the float. Look at even the little ones want to try and just have you over, don't they? So we have come back into our chub swim, the swim that I kept losing them in earlier. And finally, got a couple of smaller ones and a better one. Dragging it through on the waggler, that one was. I mean, the river is running low and clear, and it so happens that the light drops and they have a proper feed. So hopefully that might result in a couple of quick fish now. Now the light has dropped, it is literally bite a chuck. So as soon as that light started to drop, the chub started to feed, pulled out of another decent fish at the end, unfortunately. But good sport. I think if you can catch this with 6 inches extra water and a little bit of colour on, this is going to be a great day's sport there. We've had 4 or 5 small chub. I've pulled out of a couple of better ones. But yeah, get yourself down on the river, hunting those fish out on the float. Great sport, whether it be on the meat or hempen caster.